Hello everyone, a warm welcome. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. I thought I'd pop by and we create, well, I don't know what we're going to create. We're going to have a little play. So I thought we'd create a snippet. Now, I keep my snippets in this black book, but unfortunately it's discontinued. So when I finish this book, I'm probably going to put mine in my Pink Pig journal and I'll just mat them and layer them on black. So I'll do 4x6, put the mat and layer in black, and then put them in my Pink Pig journal because I think they'll look quite nice like that. So I'm going to do a snippet, I think, just with some simple ideas, and we'll have a little play. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So we've done 100 snippets, and I'm not going to number mine from now on, so then you don't feel pressurised. You can just play with whichever ones you want to do. So let's just have a little play this time and see where it takes us. And I want to use some of the new products. So I've got some Pink Frog Super Smooth 300 GSM 4x6 inch card. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the wonderful background stamp, which is Artsy Alphas and Numbers. Let's take that. And then we're going to take our Versamark ink. And I've got a couple of watercolours out from my Gansai Tambi watercolours because they're highly pigmented. So I've got number 57, Turquoise Green Deep, and Malachite. Now, what I want you to do is experiment with the colours if you've got the watercolours, because they're highly pigmented and you could do this technique lots of times with different colours. So let's take our Versamark, lots of tapping with that sticky ink pad that was once white and is no longer white. Now I'm not going to use an acrylic block, so it doesn't matter to me if it's a little bit distressed. Do I want to do it all over? Yes. So I'm going to do a background. So I'm just going to create a background piece. And I'm not bothered whether it's a little bit distressed or there's bits missing. At the end of the day, it's a background. And I can see what I've got. So let's, again, like you do with any ink pad, lots of tapping with your sticky ink pad. Then I'm going to add a little bit there. So I'm just creating a simple background with my Versamark ink that I will then sprinkle with white embossing powder. I've also spritzed my watercolours with some water. Can you believe it? I actually remembered to do it before we started. Wonders. Whoa, can't believe it. So I hope you're all keeping well. We're on February, which means that, you know, spring is coming. And that for me means projects for the garden. I always have plans in February for some messy jobs to be done. And I always end up having a few jobs done, especially if I decide to change the garden in some way. There's always something. And because our willow tree died, that's changed the whole feel of the garden, really. So I'm now having a little patio sort of in the middle of the garden where we can actually relax, because we've got sitting areas, but they're literally where you just sit. You can't sort of put your feet up and really chill. So I'm creating an area like that. Of course, there's little planting areas around it as well, so that can have more plants, because you can never have too many plants, you know. So let's... And we're going to create a couple of these backgrounds. And what I'm showing you is how to do something simple. Right, so we've got our embossed image on there, and that A7 stamp is now creating a wonderful, wonderful background. Just because it says 7 doesn't mean that that can't create a bigger background. And I would like a couple of these. And it doesn't matter how careful I am, I always tip some embossing powder on the mat that doesn't even hit the pot. But we've got that one there. You can see what a beautiful background you've got. So I won't heat that yet. Let's do another one. So let's take another one. And we will do the same again. So I want to give you some simple ideas also for your dies. Because just because they coordinate maybe with a stencil doesn't mean they have to be used with the stencil. They can be used standalone as well. So it's entirely down to your imagination. You can also make this a little bit distressed by not pressing in all areas so that you only get part of the image. So it's quite nice. Oh, and I've now got a little pug up here. I can hear a little piggy noises. Hello, Poppy. She's now going to have a wander round just to see what there is, because poor Ian doesn't realise the door's open. So she's come wandering up, having a little nose about. She'll now go in Ryan's room and then she'll get stuck. So it's a little bit distressed there. So I may end up standing up because she'll get stuck, because Ryan's door just closes. And of course, my little doggy doesn't realise that. Now, if you're using the stamp like I'm doing with no acrylic block, what you have to remember is not to press and squish it too hard. It just needs a gentle press, no squishing to within an inch of its life, because then you get like a double impression. It's just a fantastic, fantastic stamp. And one of them stamps that's beautiful to use with your dies as well. So again, from that A7 stamp, we've created a lovely, lovely background. Let's sprinkle that one. We'll do all the sprinkling, then all the sprinkling's done, she says, and I'll probably change my mind. I don't know how many times. Oh, that was quite handy. That went over all that really easily. That was brilliant. Right, I didn't think I'd give that a tap. And then let's just place that back and mist the jar like we always do. Then we'll just get one where we literally use the stamp. Look, there's a bit of ink on there. So let's remove that oily ink, that residue. And then this time I'm just going to add one to the centre. So we'll just give that plenty of inking. And then I'm just going to add one to the centre. Nobody's come for me, little dog. So we're just going to add one of these to the centre. There we go. That's lovely. Let's just add a little bit more water to these, just because Tracy's taking a little bit longer than she anticipated, as per normal. Just stuck my finger in that one. There we go. And we'll just add some embossing to this. So you've got 3 pieces there that we can emboss with our heat tool. I do apologise for this. I'm just going to have to check that my little dog isn't locked in. Come on. Come sit with me. She's like, no, I don't want to sit still, Mum. So we'll grab our heat tool. So we'll grab our heat tool. She's up here.
How does she open the door? All I think is the door clicks open.
I'm recording a video.
Where is she?
So we'll carry on, folks, and we'll just use the heat tool. As you can tell, as per normal, it's like bedlam in the Tracy Evans household. So let's heat this. Let's give the heat tool a little bit of a heat. I did message to say I'm recording a video, but it doesn't seem to make any difference in my household. So let's just go and give that a heat. Yet, you know, if my hubby is having a conference call, you can't disturb him, and he's never disturbed. I record a video and I'm disturbed every 5 seconds. You literally can't make it up. So we'll just heat all this up. Once it starts going quite quickly, which is lovely. And for an A7 stamp, it really does make a wonderful, wonderful background. Now just remember, as you've heated that, move your heat tool, just so that you don't heat the same area over and over. And with this big bold print, you can really see where the embossing powder has melted and you've got that glossy finish. So you can see really easily. Just keep your fingers away from the heat tool because it is extremely hot. It does look lovely when it's all melted. So we're just going to spend a few minutes just to melt all these pieces, just so that they've all got the embossing on there, just so that we've got our backgrounds. There we go. Just beautiful. That's melted beautifully. So let's move that out of the way and go on to our next one. And that heat tool is nice and hot, so it's starting to turn quite quickly now. Especially if Tracy stops rabbiting and actually points the heat tool at the card. It works quite a treat then. And of course, at the rate I finished, I'll be spritzing the watercolours for about the 5th time. And with this nice bold print, you really can see where you've missed, nice and easily. go. It's just going over nicely now. And before you do anything, you really want to make sure that the embossing has cooled down. You see, I had my heat tool tilted then, so I wasn't aiming at anything, which is rather handy. And you really can't miss where you haven't done. So let's do this one. Hang on a minute, I've now heated that up, and let's just remove that. Not that it matters. There we go, it's nice and hot now, the heat tool is, so it turns really quickly. Lovely. So if you do all these first, then you can have a little play with colours, which is quite nice. There we go. So we've got 3 lovely backgrounds that we can play with. Now remember, when I'm doing backgrounds, sometimes it isn't always about a finished project. Sometimes it's about just having a play. Okie dokie. So let's do the first one. Let's add a little bit of water to this. And then I'm going to take a round brush. So I'm just going to pick any. This is, no number on it. Oh, number 10. It's a round brush number 10. Okay. So I'm going to take the dark colour. And then I'm going to add this to my card. Now, I can't recommend enough. Let's do several at the same time. Come on. I can't recommend enough actually experimenting with the colours in your watercolour. I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm going to add these colours. So these colours were number 50 and 57. Turquoise green dark and malachite. Turquoise green dark and malachite. Now, I can't, sort of say enough. Experiment with your colours. Use some reds, use some pinks, use some purples, and just play. So then I'm going to go back to the dark, and you can see I'm just creating wonderful, wonderful backgrounds. There we go, that one. Let's add a little bit of dark to this one. And that embossing obviously resists our ink, which is rather nice. So let's move the dark one out the way, and we'll put some of the light colour on there. A little bit of the light colour on there. And you can come in as often as you like, just adding colour to that. So if you want some more of the dark, just come in and dab some more of the dark. It's entirely up to you how much you add of those colours. Okay, so let's just move this out of the way. I've obviously still got a lot of colour on there. Let's just grab a wipe. Let's just clean here. Now with this one, I can spritz so that the colours move. So if I just hit round the outside, that's going to soften for me. So that I can just leave to move a little bit more. The others, I don't really, you can see how rich these colours are. It's the pigment in the Gansai Tambi watercolours. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing, the colour is. Again, you can obviously spritz these if you want it to move, but I like the richness of the colour there, so I don't want to move that really too much, unlike this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give these a dry. Now what I'm going to do is make sure that I don't affect the embossing. So can you see how I'm holding the heat tool quite high up? And what you'll do is you'll find that those colours sort of marble. It's really nice, they marble, and it's just wonderful. So you don't want to affect your embossing too much, but you want to give that a little bit of a dry. So just, and what you'll find is, because my stamp is distressed, it's got little holes in, that colour will seep into those little holes, and it just adds to the overall effect. And this is why I designed the stamp to be distressed, so that when you use your distress oxides or distress inks, when you blend the colour over the top, some of that colour seeps into those open areas. We'll leave that one on its own. So I'm not affecting this embossing. What I'm doing is I'm sort of wafting over the actual colour. So I'm just wafting over that, and then I'll just keep mopping bits up that just fall. So I'm just wafting over this. I'm not affecting the embossing. Now, if you can let these dry naturally, then great. You haven't got to bother with the heat tool. You can just leave it drying naturally. But obviously I haven't got that luxury when I'm trying to show you something or show you techniques. I haven't really got that luxury. But look at the colours. Look at the colours on that. Can you see how it seeps through the holes? So that seeps through the holes. So that adds to the overall effect. I'm going to try this a little bit more. There we go. And then what you're going to do is you'll grab a clean piece of kitchen towel. Let's just bend that so that, and then you can just rub. Now, if you rub, can you see your pigment rubs in to your image? So what you want, look at that, because this is highly pigmented. So what you want to do is you just dab, okay? Or you can spritz with this and then just dab some of your colour up. It's entirely up to you. But what I want to show you is if you do that, can you see how it dilutes the colour? So I don't want that. So I'm showing you what maybe you shouldn't do. So I'm going to add some more colour to that. And then I'm going to... So you know how normally when you are using your distress oxides, you just wipe over with a little bit of a damp cloth, don't you? Well, with the watercolours, it's highly pigmented. So you don't really need to do that. You can just leave it because it adds to the overall effect. So let's dry this. Stop saying so. So we'll just dry this again. You can let it run into all the crevices quite easily. Just let that run into all the crevices. I do love watercolours, how it's just slightly different. So let's try this one. So I'm just going to lift this up and show you. So that one is all clean. I've not smudged any of the colour. I'm just drying it as it is. But can you see how it's gone into all those crevices? And it's also marbled, so you've got those beautiful dark and light colours. It works wonderfully. But you do need to dry it, but you need to make sure you're not affecting your embossing. So let me see now. Yes, you can. Now, these Gansai Tambi are super pigmented, but you can still come in and move that off your embossing. So you can just take this. But can you see how, because you sort of smudge the colour, can you see how you get a different effect? So I'm trying to show you how you can get, look. You get totally different effects. So you've got pure white here, and you can see here I've smudged some of that colour. So what I'm going to do then is just take my card, my blotting paper as I call it, and just blot the over ink. Can you see you've got that over ink? What you can also do is, because it's so highly pigmented, you can, oh, it's here. You can also, like I'm doing here, can you see I've dried this, but I can still press this card onto here and you'll pick up the residue. So you'll pick up the residue. So don't waste that, because you can come in and you can move it, because that's just the residue that's on there, because then you've ended up with another background. You can also wet this again and take another print. So you can quite easily take another print. So this is wet, and I can go over here and take a print. Can you see what I mean? You can still remove some of that colour. And when it's wet like this is what I'm saying about playing. You can also come in and add some of your lindies on the top. So you can add your lindies on the top, and then you get another background. So because they're so highly pigmented, it works really nicely. You can also add salt to this so that it draws the colour and it'll create another background. So you can add your water like so. Let me see if I've got some. I usually have. Where have you got the... What you have to do is not move things around like Tracy does. Bear with me. Put it in a different cupboard. There it is. So if you've got some coarse salt, you can drop some of the coarse salt onto your background, and that draws the moisture And what you do is you let that dry, and you'll see it's all pitted. So you'll end up with a pitted background, which gives you another effect. So let's find that copy of paper. You can also add salt. To this background. Now, it won't work. One, if it's not wet enough, you need it quite wet. And two, if you don't allow that salt to do its thing, so sort of, so it absorbs all that moisture, and it'll all be pitted. So it absorbs that moisture. So put that on one side. So let's get some clean kitchen towel, and then let's just clean all this up. I'll just grab my bin and we'll just have a little bit of a clean up. There we go. So this one was actually the other one I was going to create a card with. Never mind. But if you're going to create a card, I would recommend that you give that area a little bit of a clean. Now, the one I've just sprinkled with salt, I'm going to create a card with that and not let it sit as long as it should. But it just, if you let it sort of sit for a few hours, you'll see it all pitted. Right, now I'm going to get my die cutting machine. So now you can take your die cutting machine and you can die cut various things out of it. So you could die cut the owl, you could die cut whatever you wanted. This is not dry, so I've just dipped my finger in it. So let's forget the heat. Let's forget that until we've dried it. Can you see it's still swimming with water because I'm too excited. So let's say you've got some backgrounds that you're really not happy with. Use your dies and cut shapes out of them, and then you fall in love with them all over again because they're completely different. So let's give this a dry. Still lots of colour on there. You can see, let me lift that up so you can see I'm not just making it up. So it doesn't matter if this warps or whatever because I'm going to die cut out of it. Obviously I'm not going to die cut every shape, but just to give you an idea of how different it looks. And will take forever just to dry this. So rather than dry that anymore so that you lose the will to live, let's get another piece of copy paper and just remove the residue. Now this is where you really want to play with your products. There we go. So can you see? Just a little bit of residue. So I just get rid of that. And trust me, even with that bit of residue, if you spritz that with water and it was on a piece of card, it will still move. It's just brilliant. Right, dies. I've got all my dies together. Which one do I want? Which one do I want? Oh, that one. So I want the tag, the DI03. So I'm going to take the DI03. I changed my mind and I put all my dies, because initially I had my dies with the stamps, and then no, I decided to put my dies with the dies, the stamps with the stamps, blah, 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 blah. So let's just move. This is the one I'm die cutting out of. Let's move this out of the way. Let's bring the die in for the second time. So it's very difficult because obviously the die is quite close to the camera. But hey ho. What I'm going to do is, that's my cutting plate. So I cut into that. This is just a regular big shot, not the big one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my anti-static bag just so that my low-tack tape doesn't stick too much to the actual card. Then you find your low-tack tape, which I've put on my thing, and then I moved it. There we go. I had it and got me a little dispenser, and then I've moved it. So we're going to add this here. You can see just the end of that there. Let's do this so you can see. Where can you see better? You can see better there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tags. So I'll take the large one, and then we'll add this Let's grab some low tack tape. And what I would suggest you do is that even though it's low tack tape, you de-tack it a bit. So either with your fingers or whatever, just de-tack that a little bit. Let's put it on a flat surface. And just that's not held in place. Oh, dear me. Let's get it all right first, because you can't see what I'm doing. So my card is a little bit bent, of course it is, so I'm asking it to do a lot. Then I'm going to take, look at it, there's me thinking it'll stick too much. Then I'm going to take maybe let's do one there, let's do one there, let's do one here. Now, if you're going to do what I'm doing, please, please make sure that you hold them down. Why am I saying that? Because if you don't hold them down to some degree, if they move and touch each other as you go through the die cutting machine, like that, you will then break your dies. Now, I don't want you to do that when you've paid for your dies. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because then I'll end up with a pattern I can use. So if you are going to have dies that are close together like this, hold everything in place. It's only a bit of low tack tape. It's nothing super expensive. Let's just get our die cutting machine. I could do with about a 10-foot desk. Okay. And then you're like, what did you do with your cutting plate? Okay. Let's hopefully this will hold it down. Bring this out. There we go. So I'm not happy with that. It's going to take a bit of faffing. It is if you're Tracy anyway, because that one, I am not happy where it is. And you know why this is done, why this is happening, don't you? Because Tracy's been a little bit cautious and added an anti-static bag to it. So made it less sticky. So can you see all my dies are separate? They're not touching each other. And let's just, that clicking noise is absolutely fine. And then I'll just come back only because I haven't got room there. You don't really need to run it through twice. It should do it. Now, if we lift this up, we should be able to turn this round and all that is die cut out. Okay, so let's there we go. Remove your die cutter. And then you've got your own ephemera created using your own background. And can you see, because I've used that anti-static bag, it's not sticking. So you've got your own ephemera now that you've created all yourself. Well, it's not really as in ephemera that's old, but you know what I mean. You've got your own embellishments. So let's just... Now, because I've used that anti-static bag, nothing has stuck. Look at there. Like, it's just coming off beautifully easy. There we go. Now look at these pieces you've got. You've created your own embellishments. Now, you always make sure that those little bits fall out. Then I've got this little pathetic magnetic sheet. It's not super strong, but it works. And you've still got dies on here you've not used, which is just brilliant. So let's remove that. Look at this. Look how much you've got. From a little bit of playtime. Have I got my little scissors? From a little bit of playtime, you've got all these pieces. And really that could be your demo done, because you've shown how you can create your own little pieces now. Let's bring this in. Take this off. And because of that anti-static bag, it's not stuck. It's just absolutely brilliant. Just clear those little holes if they don't just fall out. Normally they fall out if it's just card. Then we've got our circular one. Falls out like a dream. Not sticking at all. Fantastic. Oh, just love them. Absolutely love this. So now imagine doing that with your floral, but you've also now, where is it? I can't pick anything up because it's, but you've also now got something you can create another project out of. Can you see? So you can add this to your, let's grab our adhesive that, and I'm standing up, obviously I mean business because I'm standing up for some strange reason. So let's move these out of the way. Out of the way. There's nowhere out of the way, Tracy. Right. So this is what happens when I play. I end up with just stuff everywhere. And it's important sometimes for me to just play and show you ideas. Okay. Let's add the adhesive all the way around here. All the way around your circle. So you need to make sure that it's all going to stick down around each piece. There we go. And then your faff. So I'm going to sort of make sure the top half is in place, and as I bring it down that it's in the right place. There we go. So I'm just going to give that a few moments because obviously it wants to work against me. So I'm just pressing that down and giving that a few moments. Let's just press that down. Little bit of adhesive there. So if you've got a little bit of adhesive, just wipe it off. There we go. So can you see now, if you wanted to do, what English is that? If you wanted to, you could Zentangle in your pieces here, if you wanted to. So it just works really nicely. It really does work nicely. So we've got that piece. And then we've got all these tags, look. So now you've got your own little embellishment pieces you've created out of that piece. I just love this. You could even, so what we could see if we could stamp something in there and then just colour that, but you've got the start of a project, because then when we add it to a 5x7 card that I haven't got cut out because I'm terrible. Now this is the one where I've added the salt, and it's not dry because it needs plenty of time to dry so that that salt causes the pitting. I haven't got time to wait for that, but if you wait for several hours and leave it, go and have a drink, go do your gardening, go for a walk, come back and then rub off the salt. I'm not doing that, I'm literally drying it. So you need to let it dry naturally and then rub off the salt. I'm force drying it, which doesn't give the salt much time to absorb all that moisture and suck all that moisture out of the card and out of the watercolour to leave that pitted area. But I wanted to show you that because it's just important to show you lots of different techniques and ideas that you can get from your projects. Just give this a dry from the back. And you can see how wet this is. You know, I don't know whether this will work because I've force dried it. So I'm force drying it, you don't want to force dry it. You want to let those pieces fully dry. And the reason I'm saying that is because when it's fully dry, so yours will dry naturally. And when it's dried naturally, you come back and you do this. Now, I haven't got one that's already pre-done, but you come back and you rub off all your salt. So you rub it off, but obviously you need to wait for it to dry. And when it dries, you will get little hot, you can see one forming there. You get little pitting. I wonder if I can see it on this. Yes, I can. So can you see here? Where that salt is, you'll get bleached out sort of areas and all pitted where that salt is. I haven't done that because I've dried it purposely myself. So, just to prove the salt is on there, look, you can see it on the card. You can see that on the paper. The salt is on there. So, there we go. Let me see if I can do it with my kitchen roll. Should do it with your kitchen roll, but you won't need to because yours will all be dry. And you'll give it plenty of time to dry, just so that you get that pitting. And you need to give it plenty of time to dry so that it does react. I just can't do that, just so that I can you can see how much salt's on there, look. So you will let yours dry. Can you feel mine, look? So you want to let it dry naturally, because if you do what I do, you're melting it in. Well, you're not melting it, you're drying the colour around the salt, and you're not going to get your pitting. I've got a little bit of pitting, but I just want to show you what I'm going to do with this, that's why. That's the only reason I'm doing this. So I'll say it again. With this, make sure you let it dry naturally, because then you will get lots of pitting. And I've got some pitting, but obviously not as much as you would if you let it dry naturally. If you let it dry naturally, it works beautifully. And also, if you do it on watercolour card, it works even better with the salt. But you do get some pitting. I've got some pitting and mottling on there. But you will see it's still working on here. And what happens is it dries completely dry, which might take several hours. And when you remove this salt, wherever the salt is white. And it becomes all pitted. So it's worthwhile just keeping that, just to do that. Right, okay. So let's just blot our card. Make sure we've got no salt on there. Don't think I have, because I've rubbed within an inch of its life. But if you have several on the go, it's wonderful. Look, you can still see I've got some salt on there, look, because you've got them. There we go. Tracy can faff for England. Right. So then you can place, so you've got this background, which you will have white bits in. I've now got another one of these tags. Oh, I can't pick it up. So can you see, we've gone from that and we've now got a tag like that, or we've got a tag like that, or you've got a tag like that. Can you see? Isn't it wonderful? So we can place this on here like so. That's just the plain tag. You've seen me cut out. I'm not hiding anything. You've seen me cut the dies out. They cut beautifully. So let's move this out of the way. I've still got salt everywhere. And we've still got this one. Do you remember? We've still got that one. So let's place this on one side. And let's take our other die that Tracy looks for. And you're like, where have you put that die? Patience, patience, patience. Surely you've put that with. These are all the dies. Look, it says there the stencils. You see, if I had half a brain, I'd be dangerous. DIO3, look, DIO3, A4, A5, A6. So why am I looking? Because brain cells were never one of my. So we're going to use this die. No, not that one. Not that one. We're going to use a die we just don't seem to be able to get hold of. We're going to use DI04. And I like to die cut live as well, just so you can see, to make sure you can see that it's working. So I'm going to, and with your dies, just twist like that, and it comes off. So now we can die cut this out of here. Let's grab some more low tack tape. There we go. And I'm still going to use my anti-static bag that I've got no idea where it is, whether I've put it back, what I've done. Because I get all excited. I do, honestly, I'm like a child when I'm creating and it works the way I've planned. So I've obviously put that back. Oh yes, I've put it back, look. But this is why 54 minutes down the line, I'm still at it and people say, oh, I like 5-minute videos. Not on this channel. Not with Tracy anyway. So let's roll them sleeves up because I mean business. Let's place this on here and let's hold that down. Let's try and bring the die cutting machine in so you can see everything I'm doing. Now, if you're leaving your glue thing out, just remove any dry glue and then try and place your pin in. Don't place it in if you get too much resistance because you've got a block of glue in there. Right. Let's bring the die cutting machine up. Place that on here. Place our cutting plate on the top. So you need your platform, and then we'll just cut this through. And it should really only need it once. Shall we have a look what happens when we do it once through the die cutting machine? Let's see if it's cut. Let's get that off. let's turn it over and see if it's cut. There you go, just once through, just so you can see that it has cut. And for wafer thin dies, most people recommend 280 or 250. This is 300 GSM, so it cuts through really nicely. So what I'm going to do is just remove that low-tack tape. Where's the end of it? There we go. And I've just ripped it. There we go. So because I've added that anti-static bag, look how it just, look, I'm not ripping my paper. I'm still going steady, but I'm not ripping the paper, which is what can happen when you've used a wet medium and your card, because there's still moisture in that card. Now, just make sure that you've got a nice fine stem here. And the reason it's fine is because it works, it just shows it off beautifully. So let me show you what you've got now. I could be here for a week. I'm running out of black card now. So if I bring this in and you put this on here, like so. Now when you've die cut like this and you're using the opening that's left over, go around all the edges just to make sure that that is going to stick. Don't be scrimping on there. So then I'm going to place this down. And because I'm a person that never gets it in the right place first time, let's make sure that's about even. There we go. So now I'm going to press this down, like so. Just give yourself some time just to make sure it's stuck down. So you saw me add adhesive all round here so that that is stuck down. And can you see you've got a card in itself as well, just from that. And you could add some of your pencils that you colour on black card. I have got some. Oh, what is it called? So you could use something like the Faber-Castell Black Edition and you could colour inside there. Or if you wanted to, you can leave it like it is and cut another one out. So, stop saying so. Let's take this, and then we've got this. Now you've got little release circles. Can you see little release circles that are meant to help you should you have some dexterity problems. So just use your release circles because that just helps to release. Now, normally this would fall out. And the only reason it doesn't fall out is because I've got the watercolour on there. So it acts like a suction. There you go, can you see it? So it acts like a suction to that dye because there's still moisture in there. There we go. But honestly, they release beautifully, even that thin little strip. So what you've got now, it's actually, is it this? I am going to end up faffing, folks, because it's just me all over. So this will go on here like so. So you can see that I'm just giving you like sort of the snippet of an idea. I'm going to stick these down because I'll drive myself mental. So let's just bend that card a bit. Let's stick this down. Look at that piece of card. Oh, that's because there's two there. I've got no card blanks cut out because I just wanted to come on here and have a play. I've had such a hectic time, but I do like to make sure that I show you how you can really play with your products. That's better, Tracy. So make sure you just rub in the middle there, just so that sticks down nicely. Then we can take our little tag. So let's take this. There's more of the glue bottle things on the way today. So let's place that there, like so. I do apologise for all the sawing. There's work going on outside. And that's why I came upstairs, because if I don't get anything done, because I keep being asked questions every 5 seconds. So I've got, you know what I've got on here. I've had salt on here. I've got the embossing on here. So I'm asking this to stick down, and it's like, are you kidding me? There's salt on here and everything. So I'm just adding a little bit more of that glue. Just give that a little bit of time. You could use pin flare. I'm going to add a bit under here, because obviously you've got the embossing on there and everything else, so you just need to make sure it's stuck down properly. Again, it's all about patience, that's all. So then I'm going to take this that I'm going to place just on here, like so. Let me lift this, just so that you can see that. Let's make sure they're on there with the white. So I'm now going to add a little bit of adhesive. So you could also add this just to a plain white card. Doesn't have to be the way I'm doing it, but what I'm trying to show you is that you're creating your own embellishments. So you don't need to buy embellishments. You can create your own from your dies. There we go. Let's just place that down there. So you just want to make sure most of that is stuck down. Just give that a little bit of time just on there. Just place this on here. And then if you want, you can even sort of, which way do you go? That way. You can even add one of your little tags underneath. So we can add that underneath. Let me look at my other bits. You see, this is what I like, how I've got all these little embellishment pieces that you can just add. I can add to my cards, especially if I have like just a white card. I can add these pieces and then create another piece. So if I get let's get 4x6. That's not, because that's the one I can cut out a card. This ends up being like a workshop really, because I faff so much. But now I can also, now you can have these so you use one piece on one card. What I'm showing you is just how inspiration can work. So I can add that one there, like so. Then I can add this one down here. Let's make sure that hole is like so. You can add that through there. And you can see how just from, oh, I was going to use that on there, wasn't I? But I might not. We'll use this here because I quite like it here. But this is why it's so important for me to just have a little bit of a play. But you can see how that background stamp in its own right how wonderful it is. Now obviously you can use them as embellished pieces if you wish. Let's just get the glue off there. So you can use them as embellished pieces, or you can do like me and just have a play with the whole lot at the same time like you do. Let's just place this. See, so this, if we take the word, this cuts out the word into the card. Which is that way, Tracy. Crikey, why are you making it so difficult? So if I just add this to here, you can see I'm just enjoying myself. So I'm going to add that on there. Let's move that out of the way. And what I'm showing you is how just plain really works. So let's pick this up. Nearly drop them on the floor then. So let's put that onto there. And again, you look for your cutting pad or the one to go on the top, and it's at the bottom. Okay. So let's go through now. Let's see if that's done it with one pass through. Yes, that's done it with one pass through. So we should be able to remove that now. There we go, and I've left some tape on there. There we go. Let's remove this. So I'm still using all the same tapes. Let's just poke out the snowdrops. Have I left anything in there? Don't leave anything in there, because when you come to die cut again, you don't want anything blocking that. So let's pick this up. This is 300 GSM. And really they would recommend 250 for the wording. But I want it out of this project, so it's coming out of this project. Come on. Thank you. Okay. So can you see how I'm just getting simple ideas? I might use that S there. Yes, I may faff that much. But can you see then, I'll add this to, and I've got no card blanks, so you'll have to just imagine. So we'll place this on here. Place that down, don't want you. Let's take our adhesive again. So I add my adhesive in the normal way, round here like this, and then I'll add some just around there so that it sticks down. Then we'll come back to our black card. I won't press that down initially, I'll just get it sort of in the right place. There we go. Add that to the black. There we go. And can you see, I end up then with the start of another idea. So what I do then is, let's take some Let's see if I've got a dreg of black card rather than use something I really need. What's this? There we go. That's not exactly a dreg, is it? But there you go. Then I'm going to take the die again. Now I don't need to hold that down because I'm only putting that through the die cutting machine. Let's take this. So I don't need to hold that down. Let's go through the die cutting machine once. Again, this is 300 GSM true black card. There we go, die has come off. On my card, I've got dregs of, I don't know what that is. It might be because we should have cleaned our dye. I've got bits of white from the previous. Right, so you've also got that then that you can use. Can you see? Wonderful. Just wonderful. I have no idea what that is on there. So then we bring in our, I'm just going to colour that in black, just so I can, I don't know what that is. Let's just grab my Posca pen. So what I would recommend is if you're going through as many layers as me, just go over that with a little bit of a clean. I don't think there's anything on there because that's my tissue that was there before. But let's just place that. It could be off my cutting pads because they are old. So let's now place this on here. Oh yes. So let's place this on here. Stick this down. You don't really need much glue. There we go. I can place that there. Just give that time. Just for the glue to grab hold, because you've just got that embossing and everything on there. So because that embossing is like a slick surface, you can see that. So then we can come in. We need to add something. Where's the TE54? So we'll take TE54. Let's have one of a kind, because that's exactly what your pieces of artwork are. Where is it? There it is. Do you know, I was thinking, where is it? I can't see it. So then I want a scrap of white card. This one will do. Oh, I'm dropping everything on the floor now. So we'll just grab a little acrylic block. Then we'll take our, put that in the wrong one. We'll take our Nocturne ink. Now this is a very fine stamp, so I can literally place this on here like so, rub over very gently, done. You don't need to press and squish it down, so don't squish that down. Then you look for your scissors. Like so. There we go. I've got everything but the kitchen sink on this desk. Let's just cut that down a bit. So we'll place this here. Do you want it there, Tracy, or would you like it? No, there. We'll just add this, and you can see I'm gradually building up my projects. One of a kind. We've also got this S here. Can you see this teeny weeny S that I've got there? So we can take that. Let's just dot that around. Should be able to stick that down. Let's bring this in. And then we'll add that here, like so, just for our snowdrop. So can you see I'm gradually sort of building those projects, and you've still got these to play with. So I'll probably create something out of that, but I can't do it on this video because you'll be here forever. So I may do something out of that one because I think that's a really neat idea. And we've still got this one we could create something out of as well. Then let's add a little bit, she says. Now where is that? Your guess is as good as mine. There it is. So I've got my little Inktense pencil. And we're just going to add a little bit. You can see it's not quite stuck down there, so we need to do that. Little bit of shading just around that. And then you can also add a little bit of shading around your tags. Shading around the circle one, like so. And let's grab our little brush. Did I not leave that out? The one I normally use. There it is. Is that it? That'll do. So we'll just take a little bit of water and then just blend this out. So you've got a little bit of shading, a little bit around the circle. We're just adding a little bit of shading around these. And obviously then you would add these to a card blank. So let's add a little bit of dark around there. Now, Inktense pencil will go onto any surface, which is just wonderful. It will work on all your surfaces. So it's quite easy. Works really well. So then let's just clean that up a little bit so that we've not got that everywhere. And then if we take our Posca pen, we need to go onto the sentiment actually. So let's add some splatters to our project. You can use your gesso if you want to add splatters to your project. it's all about just getting that pen working a little bit, just to add your splatters. Let's just clean that. We'll just add a little bit of shading. Oh, hang on a minute. That's why you put something over your word, because then you don't add any splatters over it. Let's add that. And we'll take our little paintbrush. Just add a little bit of shading underneath there. And then what you do is, if I just cut this 5 by 7 so you can see what they look like. No, wrong. I nearly cut that wrong then. Okay, so from the playtime, I've just got a 5 by 7 card here. So if we look at them, so you've got that one. You can see, you can also add some shading around it if you wish, but I quite like it like that. You've also got this one, like so, just added. Then you've also got these bits to play with, look, that you can play with, and then you've got this one to play with. So it gives you lots of ideas, hopefully to spark your creativity. And you can see this one is still drying, and when I remove it, it'll all be, you'll have sort of dots of the colour. It's sort of pitted, but you'll see that when you do yours. So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of a playtime, and you'll give some of those ideas a go. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.